Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. I'm your host, Ray Flowers, talking like a robot here to start because I was doing a tech thing. You know how it goes. Welcome to the show. You might be wondering, why is Ray Flowers on here on Wednesdays? Is it Wednesday? It is Wednesday. Why is Ray Flowers here? Justin Fensterman had a kid. So we wish him and his wife and his kids, both his kids now, well, but Justin's out this week. I think he'll be out the next couple of weeks, actually. So I'll probably be with you 5 days a week. For those of you thinking, oh, that's cool, we get an extra day of Ray on the show. You might be thinking to yourself, oh, does that mean Ray's not going to be on with Jeff Mans today? No, I'll be doing both shows today. Jeff Mans' show is on Elite Sports. It's Elite Sports Show, on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, Monday through Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Jeff's rocking and rolling. And on Wednesdays, I join him there. That's usually why I'm not here, because I'm usually doing that show. But this week, I'll be on both shows here today, probably the next couple of weeks, actually, through the month of August as we help you lock everything down for fantasy football draft season. Again, I'm Ray Flowers. You can follow me on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all those places at the Ray Flowers. You can follow this show on Twitter, X, at Fantasy Guru site, at Facebook.com/Fantasy Guru HQ, on YouTube at YouTube.com/@Elite+Network. All three of those places you can watch the show live or on demand. All three of those places you can leave comments and questions live during the show. So that's something to take advantage of. Tell a friend, spread the word here about this free product that we've got available at FantasyGuru.com. You can also go to FG, click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page, and that'll take you to the show in podcast form. And speaking of podcasts, wherever you listen, consume your podcast, go there and let your little fingers do the walking. Dude, type in Fantasy Sports Daily. You'll probably be able to find us there as well. It's a Wednesday. We'll be visiting with Rich Maletto here in about, a half an hour or so. Let's throw up on the screen what we're going to be talking about today. Remember, we're talking baseball, football, the next 3 days. Well, do this every day except for Mondays, actually. But the next couple of days, today it's Rich Maletto at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow it's Tyler Beaker at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Friday it's Russell Clay at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. The first half hour each day, we'll talk baseball. The second half hour with the guest, we will talk football. Today we'll talk a little bit about some guys coming back from injury, some batting order changes, a potential MVP candidate according to some 30, 40 games ago. Not going so well right now. Been fantastic this season, but really in a little bit of a rut. We'll talk about PCA, what's going on with Jackson Merrill, how have things gone for Francisco Alvarez since he returned to the big leagues. Ernie, Clement, still in our lives. Yordan Alvarez, Josh Hader, Spencer Strider, woof. Aaron Nola, and Jacob Misorowski. All right, here we go. Sorry, I get a text because you know how this goes. People don't know when you're on the radio. They don't know when you're doing shows, and you get texts. Yeah, I know. I got a text this morning, by the way, from a friend at 6:15, which was nice. I haven't heard from her in a while, so that was nice. She's becoming a pilot, just like her father. So hopefully she'll be able to fly up here. She lives in Southern California. Fly up here and say hi. Piloting. Little Cessnas, the little planes and everything like that. Really cool. Anyway, we'll talk to Rich Maletto in about 25 minutes, some football. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on with Matthew Stafford and Darnell Mooney and Ted McMillan. McMillan's got a ton of helium. Mooney's hurt. What are they Falcons going to do? And then Matthew Stafford in that situation with the Rams. And then we'll talk about some wide receivers. You can see the list there of players whose ADP is low. And the question is, are these guys good bets to exceed their ADP? We'll use the ADP over at the NFFC, and we'll discuss, are these some wideouts with low cost that might return a better value in 2025. Before we get to the baseball talk, and we're about ready to dive in there and talking about Geraldo Perdomo to start off, wanted to let everyone know we talked about this yesterday. Here it actually is official. Let's get official with it. The training camp program, if you will, is this Friday. If you can't make the program live, that's fine. You can still become a member at FantasyGuru.com. You can still sign up for the training camp. It is an add-on product. It'll be stored so you can watch it at any point. You don't have to watch live. Obviously, if you are watching live, you can do as we do here, ask questions, leave comments, that kind of stuff. Won't be able to do that, obviously, if you're not available on Friday, but you can watch it at any point. So get signed up there. You can see the link on the screen. You also find it below, I think. I'll make sure I add that in. It's fantasyguru.com/2025-NFL-training-camp. You get signed up. That's 12 hours of talking here. What we see is a whole host, the entire staff basically giving 1 hour presentations. As you can see there, the two hosts of this show, Justin Fenchman, will be on from 2 to 3 doing his guide to auctions. Justin and I did a series of 4 articles. There's an auction bit of the fantasy football draft guide at fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get all signed up over at FG. You can send a note to support at fantasyguru.com if you've got any questions. Justin and I did 4 articles about players to target and avoid, how to handle the auction prep-wise, and how to handle the auction while you're actually doing it. So a series of 4 articles there in the draft guide. He'll be giving a presentation on auctions there at the site. I'll be doing the talk the next hour from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern time, building a winner. So I'll talk about a lot of things. I'll talk about the draft. I'll talk about roster composition. I'll talk about in-season movements, kind of a catch-all discussion where we'll just kind of break it all down for you. When do you take a second quarterback? Do you take a second tight end? How do you build a bench in the proper manner? We'll talk about that on the show. And remember, again, the staff is from 9 to 9. I think the first 10 or 11 hours are presentations. The last hour is basically Jeff Manns and Ted Schuster just taking questions. So whatever the hell you want to talk about, they'll be there. And I think there's usually, I don't know this for sure, but there's usually a poker tournament at the end if you want to play in that. And if you are signed up for training camp, and basically any product over at fantasyguru.com above the basic package, you get inclusion here. If you have the basic package, just sign up for the seasonal package. That's no problem. Just go and sign up for the training camp as well. If you get signed up, you see it there. You also get access. You get an entry fee. You get a coin, a token, whatever it might be. You get included in the 4th annual Elite Mafia Fantasy Football Championship to take on me and the staff and all of us. We get leagues put together. We all get to draft against each other and against the folks over at FG. So get signed up there. Let's do this. That's Friday here. So I'll be here with you in the morning and be with you a little bit later in the day over at FG on Friday. Okay, let's dive right in. Let's get it right here. Let's click this. Let's do this. The Diamondbacks flipped the batting order yesterday. And this is, we're at that point of the season where a lot of times with lineups, they're kind of set. But if you make an addition, a movement especially at the top of the order, is really significant. We talked yesterday about the drop down in the batting order for Royce Lewis. Well, today we're talking about a move up for Geraldo Perdomo, who has, according to all expectations, even the most rosy expectations for Perdomo, did not have him being this effective offensively. He has been really good. And the fact is that Corbin Carroll, the last third of the season, it's got like a 300 on base percentage. Now he's been fine. His overall numbers, he's not running as much as we'd hope, but he's been fine. He's been very productive, obviously. But he's got a 300 on base percentage. So what they've done is they've dropped Carroll down to second in the order because Carroll obviously has more power. Drives the baseball better than Perdomo, and Perdomo's gotten on base better. So they flip-flop there. We'll see if that's something that sticks. Obviously, having Ketel Marte and Corbin Carroll behind you, if your Perdomo, is fantastic for your outlook in terms of runs scored. We'll see if that's the way they do it. Perdomo, Carroll, and Marte. Looks like that's kind of a new thing they're trying. We're still waiting for Jordan Lawler to be called up. Hopefully that'll happen next week. And just to say it, there's this, why you probably have heard this date, August 15th, with young players, and wondered what the hell's going on. Why are teams waiting to call up players? Here's why. August 15th is kind of that day where you're cleared. And by that, you mean the player that is called up, the minor league player that is called up, will still retain their rookie status for 2026. Why is that important? If you are a consensus top 100 prospect, Sammy Basallo, Bubba Chandler, right? These guys. If you're a consensus top 100 prospect, these guys obviously are, and you win Rookie of the Year next year, or you finish top 3 in the MVP or Cy Young. So if any of those 3 things happen, you win Rookie of the Year, top 3 MVP, top 3 Cy Young, your team gets an extra draft pick, okay? And that draft pick is after the first round. So it's a huge addition for a team. So teams are encouraged at the start of the season to play their young players, right? Because they can then win this extra pick. And also gets to a point in season where they're kind of discouraged a little bit from calling the guys up until after August 15th. So after August 15th, hopefully we'll see guys like Jordan Lawler, Bubba Chandler, Samuel Basallo, et cetera, et cetera. Speaking of the Braves offense, we'll talk about pitching in a few minutes here. But on the offensive side, I think got an update on Ronald Acuna. He's got that calf issue. we talked earlier this week about, how much time is he going to need? When's he going to be back? Is he going to need some time in the minors or not? Well, Brian Snicker, the manager of the team, said they don't think that he's going to require any time in the minor leagues, Ronald Acuna, and it's very likely that he will be activated from the injured list before the end of the week. We did hear some rumblings about this. So it seems like that's going to be the case. It seems like Ronald Acuna will indeed be back with the Braves by the end of the week, and that'd be great news to get a good 6 weeks out of him down the stretch here. He can be a huge, obviously, difference maker in the fantasy space. A guy that was a huge difference maker early on in the season, and not to take away anything from Pete Crow Armstrong. We've talked a lot about Pete Crow Armstrong, right? And the fact that Pete Crow Armstrong legitimately could have his leg fly off today, and it still would be a spectacular season. I said at the start of the year, 15 home runs, 30 steals. If everything goes right, he goes 15-30. Well, he's 3 home runs away from going 30-30. So he has been fantastic, right? He also has a chance at 100 runs and 100 RBIs. He's got 78 RBIs, 74 runs scored. This has been a massive, and I hate using the term, but this has been a league-winning season. This is a guy that's drafted, the ADP, 150, 130, and he's going to go 30, 30, 100, 100 maybe. Like, he has been fantastic. And frankly, I don't think anyone ever, even when he was fully developed, anyone ever predicted he'd be better than he is right now. Like, this has been spectacular. Now, here's the reality check. The reality check is he is in a funk of all funks, and he stinks right now. Pete Crow Armstrong went 0-4 last night. He is now 3 for 37 this month. He does not have a single walk. Okay. His OPS on the season has dropped like 50 points. He's again 3 for 37 with no walks. He has been a free out. And if you look at his, and this is reflected in the wagering numbers, you can still sign up for the baseball product, by the way, at fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. We're still doing seasonal baseball. Got an article, Ray's Ramblings, going up here in a bit. I'm doing, Ray's plays like 4 times a week, giving advice on the DFS game. The rest of the staff does DFS every single day. We've got the betting. I'm usually out there Monday through Friday giving bets and all that too. So you can still get involved. It's one low price of $50 for the rest of the season. Everything baseball we do. So click that subscribe tab at the top right corner. Send a note to support at fantasyguru.com. So I don't think that one's listed. Send a note to support at fantasyguru.com. But right now, PCA, and I was saying this, the numbers are very reflective of the betting market. You can get some really good odds on Pete Crow Armstrong doing something. The problem is he's not doing anything, so you shouldn't be betting on him. He's 3 for 37. Now, again, in the fantasy space, terrific. Season-long production, fantastic. His batting average is down to 257, and that, to me, doesn't feel crazy at all. Like, if you told me he hit 250 this year, I'd say that fine. I would say, well, he might hit 230. So I'd be totally comfortable with the 250 average. The 293 on base percentage is really bad. I mean, it's really bad. If you're in an average league, he's okay. If you're in an on-base percentage league, he's poor because he's way below the league average. The 265 isolated power mark, that's not sustainable. That's not him either. So we're at a real inflection point with him where, he's going to get better. How much better does he recapture the early season? It's really hard to see it. His overall game, despite the great fantasy numbers, and frankly, we're also to the point of the season where we got to be honest about this. He's hitting 190 against left-handed pitching. And he's hitting 190 against left-handed pitching with a 219 on base percentage. Atrocious. Not bad, atrocious. So got to keep in mind where we're at and the whole thing. But it's really, really slowed down here. And there has got to be some legit concern about what we're going to get from him in the final 6 weeks. He looks terrible right now. Jackson Merrill is a guy that was expected to do great things this season after his terrific rookie season last year. He's been uneven. He's been unproductive at periods of time. He's been injured, has Jackson Merrill. He went 2 for 4, hit a home run last night. We haven't talked about him in a long time. I don't think anyone who has Jackson Merrill, has ever dropped him or considered dropping him. Maybe you've benched him for time. You've basically played him and been disappointed. The good news is he's healthy right now. The on-base percentage, despite a lowered batting average this year, is the same as last year, which you love to see. His walk rate is up, which is great. Strikeout rate's up a bit, but we're still talking about a 21% strikeout rate, so no concerns there. Batting average of balls in play is the same as last year. Barrel rate's basically the same. Hard hit rate's basically the same. X velocity's down a little bit. Launch angle's the same. If you look at the expected batting average for him, he's hitting 260. His expected batting average is 280. This slugging percentage is 419. His expected slugging is 498. He, unlike PCA, looks like a player that has a better chance to improve down the stretch. So don't give up on Merrill. I know you haven't, most likely anyway. Maybe yesterday is the start of him kind of kicking things in gear down the stretch here for the Padres, who are white hot. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they're tied with the Dodgers now. They were like 9 games out of first, 9 games out of the playoffs? I think it was 9 games out of first place 42 games ago, something like that. They're like tied with the Dodgers now. Maybe they're a game behind. They're tied. Did they tie them last night? That's actually what my friend from San Diego called me. She texted me. She said, "Thanks for your Giants letting my Padres catch the Dodgers." So yeah, you're welcome. Ugh. Francisco Alvarez. Let's talk about Frank. Well, I don't think anyone's ever called Francisco Alvarez Frank. Maybe they have. Francisco Alvarez, obviously, nowhere near expectations this season. It's not going to happen. No chance. However, we talked about this. He went down to the minor leagues, really found his swing. Since he's been recalled, he's really found his swing. He's hitting 300 with 1,000 OPS in 16 games. The last week, it's 296 with a 980 OPS. So this is, I say week, last 2 weeks. Basically, in 16 games, he's been an all-star. Great to see. 3 home runs. The batting average is there. The OPS is there. And, he's not a difference maker. But he hit 2 home runs last night. And this is, Francisco Alvarez should be a catcher one. It's really what he should be. Obviously, again, all over the map. But right now, he's there. He's healthy. He's playing. As we saw last night, he's driving the baseball again. So I'd be pretty surprised if Alvarez is on the waiver wire, even if you're in a one-catcher league, because he plays for the Mets. A lot of hoopla there. He obviously went down to the minors and was killing it. So he's probably not on the waiver wire. But if he is, not a bad idea to make a move. He's got a significant opportunity to be a catcher one down the stretch. Ernie Clement hit a 3-run home last night. And Ernie Clement is somebody that we've talked about previously on the show. He's somebody that I have utilized in multiple leagues this season. He's someone that you have probably utilized in a league or two this season. He's played first base 13 times, second base 44 times, third base 65 times, shortstop 19 times. So if you have 10 positions as qualification for next season, he qualifies at first base, second base, third base, shortstop. He needs 2 more games at first base to have all 4 in a 15-team scenario. It's going to be a little bit of a stretch to get all 4 20 games, but the bottom line is this guy's going to qualify all over the field just like he does this year. And with all the guys in and out of the lineup, that is so valuable, whether you're in a roto or a head-to-head league, just not taking zeros on any day, right? So great work there from him in terms of the qualification. Overall, he's hitting 288 with 64 runs, which, is Ernie Clement going to hit 280 and score 85 runs? If he does, out of nowhere, right? And every time he's hit a road bump, and he's hit road bumps because, again, he's kind of just a guy. He's not really a star. He doesn't have a standout skill, anything like that. But here we go. The last 2 weeks, he's got 4 home runs. He scored 12 times in 11 games, hitting 367 with 1,100 OPS. And I know that I have said, because I've said this before, Ernie Clement, you can move on. I haven't moved on when I have him because I'm in 15-team leagues. If he's on the waiver wire, because everyone realizes, he's got some things, but he's got 9 home runs and 3 steals, and he doesn't even have 40 RBIs. He's hot right now in that positional flexibility. So just wanted to give him a shout out. Going to be way better than anyone anticipated. And in a very nice groove right now for those of you looking for a little bit of a boost. Yordan Alvarez, that hand issue. Astros manager Joe Espada said that over the weekend, Yordan Alvarez is supposed to take BP. And I said this, I was talking to Phil Backert of fantasyguru.com yesterday. And I questioned, and this is a legitimate question, and I know it, does Yordan Alvarez want to play baseball this year? We've talked about Alvarez previously. At some point I'm going to be Jeff Mans here. At some point, you've got to play. You've just got to play. Remember Brian Reynolds when he had his hurt arm? He played through it. Didn't do great, right? We talked about this with his tricep. He played every day. He kept playing. Yordan Alvarez has been out since May with a broken bone in his hand. May, June, July, August, 4 months for a broken bone? You got to play, dude. And how many times have we heard over the last month, he's going to take BP, he's getting closer, he's going to take BP. So I guess we're close. I guess he's going to take BP this weekend. They may not send him on a minor league rehab assignment, which to me would be crazy because he hasn't played in forever. Maybe he's playing next week. No idea. If he's playing next week, I can't get excited about it. This is just, we'll see. But Yordan Alvarez, there's an update. Thought I'd give it to you. Speaking of updates with the Astros, Josh Hader was placed on the 15-day injured list. We talked about this yesterday. I saw questions on social media. I saw questions in Discord. We talked about the situation yesterday with Hader here on the show. And I said, look, Brian Abreu is the guy. We didn't know if Hader was hurt or going to the injured list. We knew he had the shoulder issue they were looking into. It helps to watch the show every day if you can, folks. The situation is the following. Hader has been placed on the injured list with the shoulder inflammation or strain, I guess they're technically calling it. We don't know how much time he's going to miss. That's unclear at this point. McTaggart, who's covered this team for years for MLB.com, reported that here's his actual sentence. It's likely setup man Brian Abreu will take over as closer in most situations, but as Spada wouldn't commit to which relievers he would move into which roles. Like we said yesterday, Abreu is likely the guy to work the ninth inning. He's likely to get the majority of opportunities to work the ninth inning, we assume. It's not clear if that's going to be the case. There will be multiple players involved like there frequently are when the top guy goes down in the bullpen, right? So Brian Abreu is the addition if you have the opportunity. Bigger question is how much time will Hader miss? And the answer is we don't know. So we'll continue to watch and wait for updates here. But obviously, fantastic season for Hader. Not that Brian Abreu is bad. I think Brian Abreu actually leads all relievers in strikeouts, if I'm not mistaken. So he's a pretty good guy. So we'll see how much time Hader's going to miss. Spencer Strider, velocity was okay last night. The results were horrendous. Gave up 8 runs, 11 hits in his last start and 5 runs in his last outing. So he's given up now a bazillion hits and 13 runs in his last 2 outings. He says he's healthy. The radar gun says he's fine. Okay. He was quoted in an article over at MLB.com as saying, I don't know if I'm tipping my pitches. I don't know if it's my sequencing that's a problem. I don't know what the issue is, but I feel like I'm making some good pitches and they're just hitting everything. The article went on to point out that a couple of the big hits he gave up last night were on bad pitches. Like he left pitches in the middle of the strike zone. And even with the great stuff, you're going to get hammered if you leave it in the middle of the strike zone. But the article also hinted at, well, maybe he is tipping something here. And I think in the case of Strider, we got a lot of things going on here. But the bottom line, beyond is he tipping or has he just made a few bad pitches here the last couple of times out, is that we're getting to that point with the Braves where, again, their season's in the toilet. If Strider continues to struggle like this, do they keep running him out there every 5 days? Do they make an injury up? He sprained his ankle. Do they give him a week, skip a start kind of thing? Like these things are all in play, not to mention the fact that he's just getting brutalized here of late. Should be better, but his lack of whiffs, I mean, he's throwing pitches and they're just not even swinging and missing. And for a guy that, is striking out 11 per 9, 12 per 9, 13 per 9 innings, to be throwing, not having even better swing and miss, location's an issue, sequencing's an issue, and perhaps he is tipping his pitches. Aaron Nola looking for his return to the big leagues, triumphant return to the big leagues after that terrible start to the season. Pitched last night down at AAA. He, unlike Strider, pitched very well. Gave up 1 run in 5 2/3 innings, had 11 punch outs, looked great. So he threw 84 pitches. 61 of his 84 pitches were strikes. Again, that's really good. Probably going to return this weekend against the Nationals. Then the question for the Phillies will be, do they go 6-man rotation? Do they demote Taijuan Walker? We're still hoping maybe to see Andrew Painter this year if we do with the Phillies. Painter, who's a starting pitcher, one of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball. He might be called up and worked out of the bullpen. Maybe they go with the 6-man and put him in the rotation and put Walker in the bullpen. The bottom line is Aaron Nola is going back in the rotation. So now the question is, how is that going to look? Nola should return this weekend. When that happens, we'll probably get a much better understanding of how the Phillies are going to handle their rotation. Jacob Misorowski, we talked about yesterday on the show, who's on the injured list with the shin issue. There was debate about, is he going to make his next start in the minors? Is he going to make his next start in the majors? And we said yesterday, we'll continue to watch this and see. Didn't get the definitive on this, but It kind of sounds like he's going to go to the minors and probably start Misorowski one game on Friday. So that's kind of what we're thinking right now. Again, I don't think it's officially official for the Brewers, but it appears that Misorowski, who went on the injury list with a shin injury, who then was replaced by Logan Henderson, who's gone on the injury list himself, looks like Misorowski will make one start in the minor leagues on Friday this week, which means he's back later next week. We'll obviously watch that outing on Friday if it is indeed down on the farm. How many pitches do they let him throw? I'm assuming the arm will be fine because he's dealing with a shin issue, so he'll probably be pumping 99 miles an hour, no problem there. But we really want to see how effective he is locating his pitches. And then more importantly, what does that pitch count look like? So we get an understanding of when he makes that start for the Brewers next week. Is he throwing 90 pitches? Is he throwing 60 pitches? Obviously a huge difference there with him, so we'll continue to monitor that. Before we talk some football with Rich Maletto, fantasyguru.com, I see a question here in the old chat room from Slim Shady. Slim Shady says, question, keeper league scenario. Chase Burns, $3 to the end of 2027, or Yuri Perez for $10, $15, and $20 through 2028. 5-year inflation begins at the initial 3-year contract. It's a 5x5 roto league. I'm glad to see, that there is some inflation here. I've been looking at a lot of leagues, especially in football, where people just don't have inflation. Like Tim was asking me a question yesterday, Kyron Williams in the 16th round. How was Kyron Williams in the 16th round? He scored 30 touchdowns the last 2 years. Like leagues have got to have inflation. Get some baseball questions, and it's like, I've got Jackson Chourio, and he's $9. It's like, how is Jackson Chourio $9? So it's good to see, Slim, you got some inflation here with your players. To me, Yuri Perez is just the better pitcher. And I would think that if you compare these two guys, I still would take straight up Yuri Perez. But we have a significant difference here. Perez at $10 next year is fantastic. 15 there, 20 in 2028. Like if Perez develops as anticipated, stays healthy, you got him for those next 3 years, and not once are you overpaying. Love that. Chase Burns, though, it's phenomenal value. Burns has been a little uneven, as we've seen. Massive strikeouts. Those should continue. Does pitch in a difficult ballpark in Cincinnati. Does have some issues with control. That's not an issue that Perez pitched to. Again, the bottom line is Perez is just more refined and more likely to be a star next season than Burns. But we're talking about him costing 3 times as much next year and 5 times as much the year after that, and then still double the year after that. So I don't know. The safe play is probably to take Burns because he's cheap. But this really does come down to, Slim, how many other players you're keeping, what are the price points the players are keeping, how big is your league, how many teams are in the league, how many other teams are keeping pitchers, like the context. And we'll talk to Rich Maletto here in a second. We answer questions like this all the time in Discord. It's like, we need more information. Straight up, you want Perez. I love Perez at those price points. I'd be totally fine with it. I'm going to say going with Chase Burns, though, because, again, it's a third of the price next year and a fifth of the price the following year. So that gives you a lot of flexibility to not only have Burns be part of your team, but gives you the ability to add players that are big price ticket items on draft day. Good question, though. 2 great guys. Too bad you can't keep them both. All right, let's talk to Rich Maletto, Fantasy Bosco. He's joining us here every Wednesday on the show. Usually he talks with Justin Fensterman, but luckily for us, or luckily for me, I guess, I get to talk to him today with you. Maletto, fantasyguru.com. How you doing, Rich?
Good. How are you?
Good. You don't have your headphones on today. It kind of threw me off.
I know. I'm a little under the weather and was not prepared this morning. So you're getting me in a little bit of a old school fashion with just the handheld phone and me.
Well, we appreciate you soldiering on and making it happen. It's never fun when you're not feeling under the weather. So hopefully I'll lob some easy questions that won't tax your brain too much. Rich Maletto of fantasyguru.com. You can find him in Discord all the time answering questions. He obviously writes articles and does great work at the website, fantasyguru.com as well. A couple of scenarios I wanted to ask you about before diving into a topic that you suggested. We've got the situation with Matthew Stafford and the Rams, Rich. And unlike a lot of teams, they do have Jimmy Garoppolo, a veteran quarterback who's had a lot of success. A lot of teams don't have that as their secondary quarterback, but we all want Stafford out there. The outlook of the receivers, Nakua and Adams obviously is better with Stafford than not. Where are we at with the Rams offense right now? This Matthew Stafford back thing, kind of getting a little uneasy with it.
I was already uneasy with Puka and Devonta Adams. I don't know if we really know for sure how they're going to be lining up and where the volumes are going to be going. And then you mix in Adams is getting a little bit older. It's been a little more dinged up lately. You look at Puka Nakua, he always seems to be a bit dinged up. He's very aggressive with how he catches the ball. So overall, I've been avoiding those two players generally anyway, just because of the cost. Adams is a reasonable cost, but in the third round there, I'm kind of really liking the running backs. So I haven't really gravitated to either of the Rams receivers. I'm still all in on Kyron Williams. So this talk with Stafford and Garoppolo, I don't know that it changes much for Kyron. Does he see more loaded boxes? Maybe. But to your point, I do think Jimmy's a capable quarterback. At one point, I think he was one of the highest paid players. People really
Yep.
thought he was going to be the creme de creme, and then he had his own injuries. You know, Age, I'm not as worried about at a quarterback spot as long as they can, make the throws. I think Jimmy can still make the throws. So I'm not overly panicking on the Rams offense overall. But to be completely frank, Ray, I don't know that I really wanted any action on Puka and Adams to begin with. And at this point, I'm even more out.
Rich Maletto of fantasyguru.com. The Falcons obviously are making the change at quarterback to Michael Penix. We'll see how that goes. Drake London is a wide receiver one, according to everybody. Everyone's in there after the big breakout season last year. Darnell Mooney was supposed to be the two with the Falcons. He's got a shoulder issue now, and their head coach, Raheem Mostert, basically said, well, yeah, Darnell's going to play this year. Oof. When you hear he's going to play this year, that's like, ooh, boy. So I don't know. He's missing half the season, maybe more like that. So what are we doing here with this Falcons offense? Like, we've got Bijan, we've got London. This receiving core is not deep. We got the youngster in Penix under center. You feel the same way about this offense as you did about the Rams?
No, I feel like this offense, more because I have questions on Penix. I'm not sold on Penix at this point. I don't think you need to worry about London, though. I think, we saw last year the volume with London can be almost excessive, right? So for where London's going in drafts and even the questions we have on the Falcons offense, and frankly, you know, Ray McLeod is not, I get the creme de creme out there, but I think as someone that can step into that Mooney role and has shown valid ability to, get open, get the ball. I mean, it's not like Ray McLeod last year wasn't a sticking point or a thorn in our sides for fantasy players. I mean, he was always doing enough to be kind of a pain in the butt, but not enough to really want to start him, right?
Right.
Now he potentially steps into that Mooney role, I would argue. Maybe we get lucky and we see Pitts being used more as a receiver because we know he's not a good blocker. We haven't seen it from him yet. I'm not holding my breath, but this was a rookie that had 1,000 yards. So he's capable of catching the ball. He's capable of running down the field. He's had some injuries that have held him back a little bit. Maybe we see a little bit more use out of Pitts, but I was already feeling like Penix was really going to be heavily targeting London anyway. So I don't know if it changes much. Does Bijan see more loaded boxes? Maybe, but I don't know that Mooney would have changed that much anyway. Again, I think that goes back to what are our questions with Michael Penix versus the rest of the offense. So I'm still in on Bijan. I'm still in on London. I'm lukewarm on Penix.
Let's talk about one more wide receiver before we dive into that topic. Rich said, hey, let's talk about wide receivers with lower ADPs that might exceed their cost on draft day. So we'll get to that in a second. But one other guy at the wide receiver position on the other end of things, Ted McMillan. If you look at McMillan's ADP over at the NFFC for the month of August, that's over 120 drafts. His ADP has him coming off the board at 24th at wide receiver. He's being drafted as a wide receiver too. That's ahead of Jamison Williams, Rashee Rice, George Pickens, Devonta Smith, Zay Flowers, Jalen Waddle, Calvin Ridley, on and on and on. Where are you at with Ted McMillan? It's not that the talent's not there and the opportunity's not there, but that to me is, we just saw what happened with Marvin Harrison last year. We saw some improvements down the stretch from Bryce Young, but still Bryce Young in this passing offense, is it going to set the world on fire? Your thoughts on the price point with Ted McMillan right now?
It's getting a little aggressive. I actually don't mind taking Ted McMillan over a lot of those guys you listed, except for Calvin Ridley. I would have to go Calvin Ridley over McMillan. And my logic for this, Ray, and you know me enough that I chase volume.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I see Ridley being high volume. I don't see Jamison Williams, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle being those volume guys. Maybe Waddle, with the injury to Hill and Hill
Right.
being in and out type of thing. But none of those guys are really going to be the volume catchers in their offenses. Fair questions on Bryce Young. But I don't really have any doubts at this point that McMillan won't be the value guy in Carolina. As such, I would rather get him as a wide receiver 3. Don't get me wrong. There was some value there before. It's a little aggressive as a wide receiver 2. And we did get burned a little bit by Marvin Harrison last year. But, the rookie receivers have kind of panned out for us over the last probably half a decade, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm really looking more at the scheme, and he seems to be fitting in. Bryce Young does give me a little bit of hope from what we saw at the end of last year. It's not like, Adam Thielen didn't have some success with Young. It's not like there wasn't some points available. And I would argue McMillan's a better talent at this point in their careers. So I'm okay overall with the price. That's the group of wide receivers that, quite frankly, Ray, I'm out on, which is kind of what stemmed the question that I suggested for you, because I don't know that I really want these guys as my wide receiver 2s. There's not enough volume for me. I would still rather gamble on a bounce back or a better year for Marvin Harrison than I would on a Zay Flowers. They are all excellent football players. I don't know if they're excellent for us for fantasy.
Rich Maletto of fantasyguru.com usually joins on Wednesday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard. Is low enough that there might be an opportunity for these guys to return some significant value. So I picked the names, so we'll see if Rich even agrees with the names I picked. He might say, Ray, this is a terrible choice. But these are some guys whose ADP is low enough that there might be room for us to really see a nice return on that investment. And let's start out with Stefon Diggs. He's ADP in the NFFC since the start of August, again, over 120 drafts. 39th at the wide receiver spot. That is much lower than we have him ranked over at fantasyguru.com. So, twofold question with Diggs. Do you like Diggs at that price point of 39th at the wide receiver spot? And answer the question that often comes up, including again yesterday in Discord. How far do you push things? If we have Diggs at 25 and his ADP is 39th at the position, how aggressive do we draft him relative to that ADP?
So, first question, I am interested in Diggs at that cost, but I would argue you can even get him at a lower cost. I've seen him slip. And
Okay.
and the reason I think Diggs is a really great example of a question mark. I'm not convinced he's the slot guy there in Josh McDaniel's offense. I'm not convinced it's Mario Douglas. I'm not convinced it's Kyle Williams. However, whoever it ends up being is going to outperform their ADP. Now, maybe we see a rotation, all three getting used, in which case it's going to drive us nuts. It's going to be a per game basis. And at the end of the year, none of them are going to outperform their ADP, but on a per game basis, they're going to be game winners, right? I don't know who that is yet, especially with Diggs' injury, but I want some action on one or two of these potential slot receivers in New England because they're all going so late that I feel like it's worth a shot as a wide receiver 4, 5, or 6. Because if one ends up solidifying that role, Ray, I think you have an automatic weekly receiver 3 or better. So I think that's a great example.
Okay.
The second part of the question, um, how far do we push it?
Right.
I think that's personal preference.
Okay.
If I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Kenneth Walker. I am comfortable enough taking him at the end of the second round, first part of the third round. I have made statements on the coaching stream that if I'm on the clock and Kenneth Walker is available in the third round, I do not care where I'm at in the third round. He is a pick for me.
Okay.
This is based on the fact that Kubiak, whether it's been Gary, whether it's been Clint, whether it's been Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan, that outside zone scheme has done very well for me over the years, where I've been laughed at taking a guy in the third round and he ends up being a top 3 running back on the season. So I'm willing to push the envelope on someone like that much more than, say, RJ Harvey
Okay.
or Caleb Johnson, right?
Mhm.
I really am high on both these guys. However, the cost is now starting to get so inflated that it's much riskier at this point. I feel like the risk with Kenneth Walker is kind of minimal because, yeah, the injuries are a concern. But if you look at his points per basis in the old system and what we're expecting from him in this new system, he absolutely falls in that RB1 range on a per game basis. We haven't seen that with RJ Harvey and Caleb Johnson. And we know both those teams, the Broncos and the Steelers, are going to split work. We have seen it the last few years. Now, if they're efficient and the offenses are successful, they're going to hit their ADP and be better. but I'm really not comfortable pushing them up 2 rounds. We took a question on Omari and Hampton, and this was before, Najee Harris started practicing. I don't think I want to reach 2 rounds early. If you feel like you really want them on one of these players on your team, then I understand when you're saying, hey, they're not going to come back to me at the end of the 3rd round. That's fair, but understand the sacrifices you're making. And this is why, Ray, you and I've talked about it. Tiered rankings are a much better way to go. People get so rigid and want to go after one player
Yep.
instead of a type of player.
Right.
You listed all those receivers before, and I said, I'm with you, except I want Calvin Ridley I'd put ahead of McMillan.
Right.
Why?
Right.
I see McMillan and Ridley as the same, high volume. The other guy's not. So I see Omari and Hampton as a potential high volume, so I can understand that. I see Kenneth Walker that way. But you start pushing up beyond 8 to 10 picks in the early rounds. If you want to move up 20 picks when we're talking rounds 10 through 15, I get it. But this goes back to what you said before I hopped on about context. What are tendencies of your league? Do running backs fly off the board in the first 3 rounds where you typically wouldn't see it in other leagues? Or do receivers do that? Or do quarterbacks go early? Or, what's your waiver budget? Do you run out of money? Are you limited on waiver moves? All these things matter, right? So I don't know that there's an easy solution or answer on, well, it's totally cool if you only move up 1 round reaching on a guy. I don't think it's that cut and dry.
Rich Maletto of fantasyguru.com. Question about Diggs. Let's go talk about another old guy before we move to some younger guys at the wide receiver position. Cooper Kupp. His ADP is about 47th at the wide receiver spot. And there's obviously the question with Cooper Kupp, how healthy is he going to be? I don't think anyone really doubts that on a per game basis he'll be pretty effective. It's how many games is he going to play? What are your thoughts with Kupp at pick 47 at the wide receiver spot? Is that an area you would invest in? Because, let's face facts here. He plays 13, 14 games at this price point. It's going to be a huge win.
Absolutely, but I would rather gamble on youth than age. I'm an ageist, Ray. The older I get, the more I realize how much harder it is to come back from injury, how much easier it is to get hurt. So, due to his injury history, due to the fact is I don't know how much we're going to see Kupp and JSN, who's going to be where. The fact that I'm not sold on Sam Darnold with this new coaching scheme and system from Kevin O'Connell, who I have a lot of faith in. Kupp has to probably drop another round or two before I'm investing. It would have to be
Right.
a little bit later in the draft for me where I'm like, this is a free pick.
Yeah, I don't have him on any of my teams. I keep wanting to take him somewhere, but
Right.
like you, it just doesn't ever, it hasn't happened yet. Packers. We got the news this week. Jordan Love with the left thumb. Supposed to be okay for week 1, but there's that. Jaden Reed's injured. He may not be ready for week 1. Romeo Doubs was hurt yesterday. Christian Watson's not going to be ready. He's going to be on the PUP list. Dontavian Wicks is beat up. I look at this group and it's a really frustrating group because they're going to be successful, but all these guys are going to be involved. They draft Matthew Golden, doesn't make much sense to me. All of a sudden, the rookie's the only one that's healthy right now. So is Matthew Golden somebody, it's like he's wide receiver 48. He's right there, right behind Cooper Kupp. Is that a risk, a dart you're willing to throw?
I would take Golden over Kupp to answer that part of the question.
Yep.
But this goes back. I'm not sure I'm willing. I'm with you, Ray. I'm really low on all the Packer receivers. Wicks I found the most intriguing because there has been kind of some hype around him being kind of a guy to build around.
Right.
And he hadn't been hurt until recently. And his draft ADP stock was so low that he was one of the free guys.
Right.
I
I do have him on a couple teams.
I would say he seems worthwhile of a risk, right, for his cost.
Right.
The interesting thing about Golden is I'm not impressed yet. As a general rule, these speedsters rarely impress me. Now, I was just at the expo with a guy that I have a lot of trust and faith in his takes, and he's high in Golden. And one of his things is he was reading and doing some research and found that apparently Golden has some of the best hands in this class. Like a couple of scouts that specifically said he potentially has the best hands in the class. That matters to me. I don't like Quentin Johnston because he's a body catcher and can't catch the ball. Guys that catch the ball, I like. That said, I'm still not really so.
You're there, Rich. We got you. Oh, we lost your volume, but Rich Maletto of fantasyguru.com. We still got the video, Rich, if you can hear me. He'll probably reset things here a little bit. Rich joins us again every Wednesday, I'll be with you obviously today, next week, the following week. That's the plan right now for me to be with you while Justin's away with his birth of his second child. I'll be on later today with Jeff Mans on the Elite Sports Show. That's 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. I'm with him every Wednesday. Tomorrow we'll be joined again by Tyler Beaker as our guest to talk football halfway through the show. Friday will be Russell Clay, our guest halfway through the show to talk some football as well. The first half of each of those shows, we will talk, obviously, fantasy baseball. I see a question here from Michael. Michael says, I'm in a half-point keeper league. I have Johnson or Barkley as my choice, and I also have the first pick. I know Chase will be available. Great. So you're taking Chase with your first pick. Agreed. The answer to this question really, and it's really how do you want to build? If it was me, I'm going wide receiver. I'm going Jefferson and Chase. Right? And I'll bang Jefferson and Chase out, and I'll have the two best receivers in football by a country mile. I'll still get that running back, get the Kenneth Walkers of the world or whatever it is. I might even go quarterback, with my third round pick. Might do that. But no, I would go with Jefferson and Chase, Michael. I think that when you can take two absolute superstars as the cornerstone of your team, I'm willing to pass on the running back who does have a higher incidence of injury. Let's remember, as we've said all along, Barkley's getting older. He never plays a full slate of games. He had 480 plus touches last season. The offensive line, a couple of the guys are beat up a little bit right now with the Eagles. I'm going Jefferson and Chase. Hope that helps you out, Michael. Let's see. I think we got Rich back. Rich, how you doing? You back?
Good. I don't know what's going on, Red. For some reason, there was this loud clicking, and I couldn't hear anything.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we had you. We could see you at least.
Now I can't hear anything again.
Okay.
Wow.
Oh, you can hear the click. We don't talk a little bit. I don't think we got any clicking. Are you still there, Rich? Rich is still working on things. We'll put him in the little. We'll put him in the green room, as they say. Well, Rich works on that. Sal B has a question as well. Great to be back here joining you, Ray. Trying to prepare for my home league, and I have the number 2 pick, a 12-team PPR setup. I would love to double tap the wide receiver, but that second, third round wheel wide receiver are mostly doo-doo. I like the use of doo-doo there, Sal. If A.J. Brown doesn't fall. Would Garrett Wilson be too much of a reach, or should I just grab Kyron, Hall, Walker, and move on? Plan to take elite quarterback on the other half of that wheel. I understand this question. It comes up every year. It should. The fact of the matter is you have to play your draft, Sal and everybody else. Everyone, I had multiple people yesterday say, I had one person yesterday say, I'm going to go, was it like wide receiver, running back, wide receiver, running back, wide receiver, quarterback, wide receiver. Like they planned out the first 7 picks. Can't do that. Number one, you don't know how your league is going to draft, number one. And number two, you don't want to be locked into taking a position and passing on a better player. So I would really caution people to avoid, I understand why you want to do it. I would avoid doing it to that level of specificity. In the case of Sal here, Garrett Wilson is not a reach at all. And remember, too, if you're double tapping wide receivers, Garrett Wilson is a stupendous wide receiver, too. In most instances, he's going to be team's wide receiver 1. So if you've got Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb or whoever it might be, and Wilson, that's fantastic. So absolutely not. Nothing to worry about there. I'd be totally fine doing that. Again, if I'm starting out, you have the number 2 pick. If you go Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, that's a win to me, man. So no, I wouldn't worry about that, Sal. And I think that if you go wide receiver, the idea in theory of running back, quarterback with your 3rd and 4th picks, in theory, makes sense depending upon how the league plays itself out. Let's see here. We'll go back to Rich Maletto is trying one more time. Rich is trying to make it happen. Rich, how you doing? Looks like Rich is still having some technical issues, which is never fun. I deal with technical issues myself, and it's never fun when you're not feeling well. So we wish Rich that he'll feel better. Hopefully that's the case too. Hal's got a question here. Hal says, is Breece Hall in a 50-50 split? No. Jeff Mans went on I think it was yesterday on the Elite Sports Show on Sirius XM, went on a rant and almost lost his mind yesterday. There are, other than Henry and Kyron Williams and like Saquon Barkley, there are no running back ones touching the ball 20 plus times a week. It just doesn't happen. Almost all backfields are split. Almost all of them are split. 50-50 split, Hall and Allen, absolutely not. If they do that, they're going to lose. So Jets are welcome to do that. If you don't want to get the ball in the hands of your best offensive player behind your quarterback, hey, man, go for it. So absolutely, they're not in a 50-50 split. They're just not. It's going to be 17 touches a week for Hall, and it's going to be 11 a week for Allen. And then we're going to have Justin Fields doing his thing. So, no, I know that there's a lot of people saying that. I don't. Maybe that's the case. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but I totally agree with Jeff. I think it would be an absolute mistake for there to be a split backfield, and I just don't think that's the plan, despite what we're hearing. I just don't think that's the plan for the Jets. Rich Maletto, fantasyguru.com. Rich is having problems. Rich, if you can hear me, go feel better. We'll worry about getting you back on next Wednesday. Thanks for putting the effort in. Again, Rich joins us every Wednesday here on the show. Hal's got another follow-up question here. In a super flex 14-team league, how much, if any, would you move quarterback up your draft board? Hal, let's see here. Jeff Mans and I were in a super flex draft for SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. You can find it. I don't know what episode it was. I'd have to look it up. But go to try this again. Go to youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. At the top of the page, click on live. And then you can find my breakdown of the Superflex draft. Here it is. It's actually episode 459. So in episode 459, I talked about for 20 minutes my Superflex draft. I talked about how my team went together. In a Superflex draft, quarterbacks have to move up your draft board because your league is going to absolutely push them up in ADP. And they're going to overdraft the quarterback in most scenarios. Some teams will draft quarterback the first 2 rounds. Okay. So they're going to overdraft it. So you have to be more aggressive with the quarterback position. Again, episode 459. Check that one out. I broke down my team and talked a lot about that. Jeff Mans also has talked about it because we were both in the same draft. He talks about it on the Elite Sports Show as well. And his manifesto, that breaks this down as well. So bottom line is you have to play your draft, Hal. You're going to have to get aggressive with the quarterback. In most instances, you're going to take a quarterback in rounds 1 or 2 most of the time. Sometimes you'll take 2 wide receiver quarterbacks in the first 3 or 4 rounds. I think I took my second quarterback. Patrick Mahomes was in the 4th or 5th. Is that right? I'd have to pull it up. Mahomes might have been my first quarterback. Maybe I took let me say this again. I took Mahomes in the 2nd round, and I believe I took CJ Stroud in the 5th round. I believe that's how it went. Anyway, check out episode 459, Hal, and everybody else. So you can check out what we're doing there in terms of Superflex. Let's see here. Sal just said thank you. You're welcome, Sal. Glad we could help out and talk you through it. So as you can tell there, you can always leave us comments and questions throughout the show. If you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, Twitter X @FantasyGuru site, Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. You can leave those comments and questions that we will address during the show. I want to thank Rich. Sorry, we had some problems with his tech stuff and everything. It happens, but thanks to him for joining today. I hope he feels better. He'll be back with us next Wednesday. Tomorrow again, Tyler Beaker will be joining me. I'll be joining Jeff Mans here in about 2 hours. In an hour, I can't even count. In an hour, I'll be joining Jeff Mans, 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Elite Sports Show. So I'll button this up, head over there, get ready for that show. I'll also be posting an article looking at a lot of pitcher and hitter performances over the last roughly month. Who's trending upward? Who are some names that maybe a little bit better than we thought? We'll take a look at that in a Rays Ramblings piece today over at fantasyguru.com. So I appreciate your time today. Thanks for Rich Maletto. I'm Ray Flowers. You can find me all over the place at The Ray Flowers. And you can find me right here Monday through Friday on Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.